Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sunny Wasserman with you with the 278th Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. We are going to be dealing with a tremendous amount of stuff on the upcoming election, especially election protection. We're going to discuss all the different ways the billionaires are trying. They say they're going to steal the election. They're actually going to buy it, and that's what happened in 24, and that's what's happening again, and we are going to deal with a lot of the detail. We're going to be joined by the great Ray McClendon. We're also going to talk about a 20% plan to help support grassroots groups, which really need it in the upcoming campaign. And in the second hour, we're going to talk to Kevin Camps about nuclear issues, and also the great Mike Hirsch is going to fill us in on the hidden ramifications of this housing bill that's in the Congress right now and its implications for condos, among other things, is a very, very important piece of the puzzle that nobody is discussing. That's a lot of what happens on this call is we get to stuff that nobody else will touch. I want to start with the great HEDY TRIPP, who's in northern Minnesota, despite her tropical background. I
Mm.
guess it reminds me of your Singaporean roots, right, Hetty? So tell us, please, from St. Cloud, Minnesota, you've been our conduit to the situation in Minnesota. What is the latest with ICE and all the craziness up there?
Well, first, Attorney General Keith Ellison has been very seriously campaigning. We need to keep him in office. He has certainly been a supporter for the social justice issues. He was door knocking in St. Cloud, Minnesota. There's a lot of really good uh, grassroots organizing that's happening. I wanted to very quickly show you something that happened during the primary. There was a conservative, did that come on?
It's all right. You can just tell us, Hetty. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Uh, there was a person who impersonated being a Muslim
Oh,
and brought people who were in burqas trying to vouch for them to vote. But they were stopped by the voting people, and they were exposed as basically as frauds. So there's a lot of tricks that are happening to prevent and to take over the elections.
well, Ray McClendon is with us from Georgia. And maybe he'll tell us if anything like that's going on there. But what you're saying is a right winger dressed up people in Muslim garb,
Mhm,
knowing that they were not eligible to vote, and then tried to get them registered in a cosplay. And then,
mhm.
oh, there we go. Oh my God. This
Yeah.
is a picture for you in Radio Land of people dressed as Muslims. And
Mhm.
tell us, Hetty.
Yeah, they were disguised as a group of disguised conservative activists armed with hidden cameras set out to test the claim that the state's recent permanent primary election. So, yeah,
Oh my God.
they were not allowed to do that. They were
Don't
caught.
don't these people have anything better to do? Actually,
No,
the guy on the left looks a lot like Steve Bannon. And in Minnesota as a whole, Hetty, is ICE still intimidating people on the streets?
there are targeted areas that's happening, but the grassroots organizing come out in real force. So yeah, it's happening.
Oh.
Not as as intense as before, but it's certainly happening. They're just targeting certain places and groups.
Well, Ray McClendon in Georgia, you just saw in Minnesota, the right wing are going to the extent of dressing people as Muslims and knowing they're not eligible to vote, and then making a photo op of them trying to register to vote. Have you experienced like anything like that in Georgia yet? Um,
No, fortunately not yet, but
it's
we don't put
coming.
anything past some of these right-wing MAGA uh, influencers and crackpots.
Well, since John Ossoff is Jewish, I assume that they'll try and do it with like Orthodox guys with yarmulkes and stuff like that, right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I put nothing past them, Sluggo.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for that, Hetty. Thank you for that report. You're looking good on the beach there. I guess that because of global warming, St. Cloud has now got palm trees. Is that right?
I wish.
Yeah. Okay.
How
Well,
I grew
thank you.
up. This is my background of my growing up in Singapore. So, but I'm here in central Minnesota.
All
Okay.
right. Well, keep us posted. Thank you. We've got 50 people with us. We're joined now by Ray McClendon. Ray, on our agenda is a couple of things. The two keys to the 26 midterms. Number one is all the different ways, and we did do a list a few calls ago, but it's got to be updated. All the different ways that the billionaires, Elon Musk and so on, are trying to, shall we say, purchase the 26th election, and then the question of grassroots organizing. The question is there a Satan, and did Satan give Elon Musk his $1 trillion to buy our election? What different ways are you seeing in Georgia that the election is being twisted?
Well, there are multiple ways, and we've seen it in um, the past several elections, Harvey. And one of the things you're going to need to recognize is that voter suppression, misinformation, and disinformation are full-time, year-round activities in Georgia, as is the case in most swing states, but especially here in Georgia. We've been a laboratory. So when you combine what the state legislature does every year by introducing new legislation to further curtail the rights to vote in various ways. When you look at the state election board, which is skewed toward MAGA representation, and at every turn is trying to usurp the authority of both the Secretary of State as well as local election boards and their constitutionally established duties from the state constitution, as well as now the federal government. See, in 2024, we at least had the federal government, and even in 2020, you had the federal government that was attempting to do legitimate voter protection and cybersecurity for voting. And now all of that's been dismantled. So what does that mean? It means that the federal government now is squarely on the side of voter suppression. And that starts with the President of the United States. And he has mobilized the entirety of the federal government, not just DOJ, not just ICE, but the entirety of the federal government now is fully supporting voter suppression, particularly targeting those states that have significant voter populations of people of color. So here in Georgia, what we're seeing specifically is not just one type of impact, but multiple. First of all, we know that he is already, as many of you know, he meaning the president, had already charged the FBI and the CIA for whatever reason to come to Georgia to confiscate the votes from the 2020 election. We also know that they are putting together a team of 1,000 DOJ quote unquote observers. And then, as being put up on the screen now, the executive order that he signed essentially will give the Postal Service veto power over what ballots will be delivered and received, and which ones will not, based upon whether or not those states have turned over their voter rolls to the federal government. We think that that's just the beginning, though. Although the 1,000 DOJ employees who are going to be deployed is just the beginning. We fully expect ICE to be involved in local elections. We fully expect other federal government departments to be involved, from Border Patrol to potentially even deploying the National Guard. All of this is leading up. What Trump is doing now, and from our view, is that he is putting together his case from all of the vast resources of the federal government to justify taking over the elections one way or the other in November in swing states. So we expect that to be the case here. So we're looking for not just one or two entryways for the federal government to try to suppress votes, but there will be multiple ways of attempting to distort and suppress the vote in the swing states.
Well, that's about as terrifying a 5 minutes as I've ever heard. We a while ago we compiled a list of the various ways that the federal government or the right wing was going to try and steal the election or buy it, and here we go. Everything you just said seems to me imminently doable on the part of the regime. And
Yeah, it's eminently doable because of one main reason, and that main reason is the U.S. Supreme Court. The court has shown extraordinary deference to, and that's putting it kindly, to Trump and his executive orders. They are at every turn, they are backing Trump's policies on a 6-3 vote. And so he thinks he's got a green light to do essentially anything that he wants to do to circumvent the elections, including deploying federal troops, either through some nefarious means like using the Insurrection Act or some quasi-legitimate means by virtue of coming up with some false information from the ballots that he's already stolen.
oh my God. So well, we're going to get next to grassroots organizing. How do we counteract this? What's our defense?
Well, the way to counteract it is the people signing up to be poll monitors and to be just citizen monitors, whether they actually are signed up to be poll monitors, is going to be critical. That is something that we're working on now to try to game out situations. One of the things that we are planning to use is a tool that our good friend Andrea Miller has created called See Something, Say Something. And essentially what it is a real-time tool, an app where you can take your cell phone wherever there's a problem and you can upload information and put that information into a database with what the problem is. And it's up on the screen now, whether it's voter intimidation, ICE is at the polls, whatever the case may be. You pick your location. You can actually take pictures or video of the situation and then upload it. So this is already has already been tested. That is up and ready to go, and it is a link for us to use. What we're working with Andrea on right now is to have it tied into a several groups of lawyers and election advocates so that we can get that real-time information in the hands of people who have expertise in election protection strategies and issues so that we can move forward with that. But that's a real-time. You want to put the link in the chat, Mike, or whoever
Steve.
was
I
who,
did. Well, I'll put it
okay.
again.
Okay, great. But that's something that we're going to be using, and I would recommend it to everyone to have that app on your phone so that we can use that link on a real-time basis.
Well, this is about as terrifying a moment as we've had here. We all know this is going to happen. I mean, the standard media story is that in 2024, Elon Musk put $300 million in to support the Trump coup. And I think that's probably a vast underestimate. And it will certainly vastly underestimate how much Musk and Ellison and Thiel and the rest of them are going to do this time. And certainly everything you described is doable, Ray, with $300 million. Their return on investment for what they put in 24 to put Trump in there has been astronomical, and they know that if they get him in, and if they keep Congress neutered, that their return on investment will multiply again. I mean, this is what it's about here. So we've got 60 people with us. Carla Sand, you're, I think, in Minnesota. Did you want to say something to Ray McClendon, please?
Yes, I do. This is Carla in Minnesota, and I'm the one that has all those relatives down in Georgia. So when I hear Ray, I get to talk to him. But all I hear down there is these greater Georgia folks, not the Atlanta folks. All they care about is that those darn Atlanta people, they're voting us out. They don't say anything about fraud. They just worry that Atlanta's running the state. So eventually they're going to have some kind of a coup down in Georgia like they had in Wisconsin when Walker took over because the greater folks didn't take it anymore. What do you think about that?
Uh, well, I can say that yes, Metro Atlanta has a disproportionate impact on the state in every area, politically, economically, healthcare wise, et cetera, as it should be. The problem with a lot of people is that unfortunately, they don't like the control that Atlanta has because of the base that Atlanta has become politically over the last 50 years, and it's resented for a lot of reasons. It's big city resentment, it's racial resentment, etc. But if without Metro Atlanta, Georgia would be worse off than Mississippi. And so there's a reason why Atlanta has an outsized impact. When you look at the economic power that's in the metro area and the amount of the gross domestic product of the state that is represented, the corporate headquarters, the Atlanta airport, which is the largest economic generator in the state. Atlanta definitely has an outsized impact, and that's resented. But guess what? Nobody else can replicate what has happened in Georgia because of the leadership that we've had over the years. So we're proud of that leadership, and we chuckle at the resentment because if they wanted to be more powerful, then create it in another part of the state. Let's see you replicate this that has occurred over the last 50 years in Atlanta, and see you replicate it in other parts of the state, which are really trying to emulate at the metro area. So I take some of that criticism with a grain of salt. But
Well,
the reality is that we need the entire state to win these statewide races. We need the entire state to win the Senate race, to win the governor's race, and some of these other constitutional offices that are on the ballot. So it's going to take South Georgia. It's going to take both Southwest and Southeast Georgia. It's going to take middle Georgia, and we respect those folks. We expect to have significant messaging from trusted messengers going out to those areas, because that's what made the difference when we won in 2020, that we did not replicate in 2024 is the ability to turn some of those ruby red South Georgia counties from ruby red to purple, and to
well, you
dramatically
also had
increase. Yeah.
you also had the astonishing turnaround of Georgia's favorite daughter on the right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now seems to be an avowed enemy of Donald Trump. The big question now becomes, the polls are all showing that Trump's ratings have never been worse. They're probably the worst in American history, certainly dating back to Truman. But I watched this guy, Harry Enton, who Mike Hirsch has informed me is a cousin of Neil Sedaka, but whatever. The bottom line is all the polls are showing Trump in the deep, 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 well, as he says, underwater. But then they get to the point where they say, well, how's this going to play out in the election, in the midterm election? And they basically say that gerrymandering has given the Republicans a 4% lead structured in, and that the election for control of the Congress is going to be very, very close, no matter how unpopular Trump appears to be. And then you factor in all the stuff you just said, Ray, about the manipulation of the election itself, and you wonder what's really going to happen in November.
So here, voter suppression is the death of Black and brown voter turnout by 1,000 cuts. Okay. And it started after the Shelby decision. Okay. Which was over
Right.
13 years ago. Right.
And engineered by John Roberts,
Engineered by John Roberts, who had been opposed to the Voting Rights Act from the time that he was a junior attorney in the Reagan administration. All right. And what I mean by 1,000 cuts is that all they're doing is chipping away every year on suppressing Black votes. And they're picking up a percentage point or two each and every year. So as an example, we've gone from almost just a 4% gap, negative gap between Black voter turnout and white voter turnout 10 years ago to almost 9% gap in Black voter turnout in 2024. So with that increase in gap, it makes it more difficult. I mean, more difficult. And we have in Georgia, we could win every single race in Georgia if the Black voter turnout was the same as white voter turnout. Every single race. The reason being, in Georgia, almost a third of the electorate are Black voters. So that's different than, say, Texas. Texas might have more Black voters, but the percentage is only 14%. Florida is similar percentage. So is Virginia. But in Georgia, we're 33% plus of the total registered voters. So if we just turned out at the same numbers, we could win every single statewide race. Now, but again, the problem is, why doesn't the party, the progressives, why don't they understand that, and why are they not putting money into grassroots organizing in the Black community? That is just the stupidest, craziest thing ever, which is you got the opportunity here with an electorate that votes at a minimum. Even when you're talking about, well, Black men, and Trump was able to get Black men, even there, you still had over 70% of Black men that voted against Trump. And with that, there's no other demographic that approaches 70%, except, drum roll, Black women, which is close to 90%. Okay, so why are we, when you see those kinds of numbers, just do the math, the basic math, and there should be all kinds of money flowing in to getting Black voter turnout to be equal to or higher than white voter turnout.
Wow. Steve Caruso, did you want to jump in here?
Yes, Ray, has there been any amelioration of the line problem, waiting in line to vote in Georgia? Nothing has changed in that.
Nothing has changed with that. And as you know, a part of the line problem was that, so you know, one of our responses to the lines was that we had people out standing by the lines passing out water and snacks and so forth. Well, they actually passed a law which made it illegal to do that. So you can no longer literally give someone a drink of water that's thirsty.
And the 20
of law.
Harvey's bringing up this 20% donation to these on the ground movements or groups that are trying to get the vote out. And there's a lot, I've seen an uptick a lot online of these groups, and there is just so many people know this is an emergency situation. Something's got to be done. And
well, it's an emergency.
Pick your group and go, I guess.
Yeah, it's an emergency situation, but here's the problem. The problem is that the donor groups that we've been talking to, their money is coming in late. So they don't have money to then divvy up to determine what they can provide to us. Shout out to John Steiner. He's been really helpful in getting us in front of some people, but their money is already coming out late. So the problem with that is, as has been the case in the past, we need to be ready to get in the street right after Labor Day. We need to be ready to mobilize, to have events, and we're planning some right now, but we're doing it on shoestring budgets because no money is flowing. And typically, I guarantee you what's going to happen is some folks are going to show up with some money, around the middle of October and say, hey, do what you can with it. And by that time, early voting has already started in Georgia. So you're already too late. We need to be in the streets in September and early October, not late October.
Well, John Steiner, if you're on the call, I don't see you. If you'll raise your hand, please, we can call on you. We want to discuss this 20% proposal. Ray, if you'll lay out when he comes, oh, he's there. Allison and Ruth, if you'll defer for a moment. John Steiner has been working behind the scenes on precisely this. John, can you discuss the idea, the 20% idea, and also raise the issue? Are we going to feature people on the this usgrassroots.org website? Where do we go from here?
Thanks, Harvey. And it was your idea, so we're following along. And Ray, I sure hope some money comes in to you guys. My goodness. But he's right. There's a lot less money apparently from what we're hearing coming into a lot of grassroots groups around the country, not just the ones in Georgia. But Harvey's idea was that most people give money directly to political candidates, and a lot of folks don't know the effectiveness of giving money to the ground game, to relational grassroots organizing, as Ray and Andrea really have kind of made a whole difference in telling us about that and how it works. An awful lot of groups do the same thing, including Movement Voter Project, et cetera, et cetera. But the intention is to try to get the idea out there. If you're giving money to a political candidate, take 20% of that and give it to somebody working on the ground. We will have a website up as soon as possible, listing 3 or 4 groups like that and a couple of groups working on election protection. Harvey, anything else you would like me to cover?
Well, it's usgrassroots.org. We set it up in 24 and didn't make much use of it. And the idea which we're putting in front of everybody, and by the way, we are nonpartisan. So if you want to support Steve Bannon and Opus Dei, be our guest. Just remember that the Pope is a White Sox fan. I don't know where that goes, but at any rate, we have to have some diversion here. But the bottom line is we are thinking, and we'll take your suggestions of setting up resetting usgrassroots.org, listing groups like Ray and Andrea and some of the others you might want to mention, John, and then direct people so that when you want to donate to a candidate, you give at least a fifth of that to a grassroots group. And I gotta say, like everybody else, I get probably a dozen fundraisers a day from various candidates. And all they ask for is money, and they don't mention issues. It's like, where are you guys? There you go. That's we call it the Grassroots Hub, the People's Pro-Democracy Hub. We listed about 50 organizations 2 years ago, but John has been good enough to go through, and appears like almost all of them are gone. But we know we have certainly Ray and Andrea and other groups available now that are functional and it will make a difference. John, you mentioned another one. What was it?
Harvey, what I think I'd rather do than the specifics right now is we will work this week to see if we can get at least a rough draft of the website up and running by next week's call.
Okay, that's good. And Ray, if you're willing, we'll be glad to list your group, and right next to Steve Bannon's, and but this it frustrates me because Tallarico is one, and I get probably 3 or 4 fundraising pitches from him a week, and he never mentions what the money is going to go for. And they never mention issues. And I think one of the problems with the donation stream now is that people are really angry at the Democratic Party.
And Sonny, real quick, not
Yeah.
all of those comments are directly from candidates. They will mention candidates, but they're known as spam packs or scam packs. And they raise a lot of money and spend most of their money on raising more money. So this is a huge epidemic. The Tea Party did that. I think it was the guy named Richard Viguerie started that with direct mail.
Richard Viguerie, right.
And since then, it's moved over into the Democratic side. And these people are ripoff artists. So just delete them on site. And we're trying to get somebody on. Mila spotted this political scientist who's done some research. He wrote an article, the New York Times is going to run it. And some famous Democratic Party advocacy attorneys threatened the New York Times. So they refused to run the article. But it's like basically they find people average age 75 years old, frighten them with these hyperbolic, histrionic headlines like we're in tears. Barack Obama is heartbroken that you're turning your back on him, and it's all just a scam.
Right, and people have gotten hip to that, and that's why I think the money flow has diminished, and we have to counter that.
Yeah.
People and the candidates got to wake up and say, "Look, I'm gonna spend your money hiring people at $20 an hour to go knock on doors. Forget about trying to outspend Elon Musk's $1 trillion media campaign."
That's right.
Right? Ray, do you want to comment? And then we'll go to Allison and
No, I totally agree. I totally agree, Sluggo. The issue, and we've said this over and over again, but it's worth reiterating. We saw this from the Warnock and Ossoff campaigns in 2020 and 2021. There was massive money being thrown first into the campaigns themselves, okay, but number two, into political action committee ads. Hundreds of millions of dollars in ad buys in those two areas. And what people do, especially in the Black and brown community, is they just tune that stuff out.
yeah,
They don't care about any of that, the point, counterpoint, and you end up not knowing what to believe. But they will believe someone who is from their community to say, this is the way you need to look at this person or that person. And that's what relational organizing, the way we do it, is based. It's based on having trusted messengers out in these local communities, not somebody that the campaign hired to go out that they parachuted in from Boston or LA or something to go out and talk to people, but to give the tools of engagement to local people who have relationships with these folks, see them in the grocery stores, see them at PTA meetings, etc. That's the core difference. So what we're
right.
building is not just awareness, but we're building relationships with the people to motivate them to vote from people they trust. And
Well,
so
that's critical. Ray,
that's critical.
you got to put that in writing.
Ruth has got breaking news on voting in the Supreme Court.
Oh, all right, Ruth, breaking news here. And Ruth is our representative from Alabama. So we give her added weight. And then Allison's in Florida, so we give her added weight too. But go ahead, Ruth.
Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it can. The Supreme Court just okayed some of Trump's attempts at stealing things, meaning that he's going to be allowed to potentially get the voting lists that he wants from Democratic states, to control ballots sent out by the post office, getting names of people that voting lists from states. Anyway, let's see, High Court's ruling handed down unsigned order over the dissent of the three liberal justices to move forward with a proposal for the Department of Homeland Security to compile state-specific lists of people it believes are eligible to vote in Democratic-led states, etc. Anyway, it's a 5 alarm fire, and any of us who know lawyers who can write ACLU, whatever, this sounds pretty bad. Another part of the law impose new mandates on states that want to send ballots through the mail, requiring that they submit their own lists of eligible voters to the agency and include information on ballot envelopes to allow those ballots to be tracked. This is unbelievable. So sorry to interrupt, but it just
No.
came through.
Well, clearly they're doing everything they can now to trash vote by mail. The idea of empowering the Postal Service to not deliver ballots to specific individuals, that is pure fascism. It's absolutely
And then to track ballots that they want tracked.
that's totally amazing. We have 71 people with us. Allison Green, go ahead, from Florida.
So yeah, I want to agree with a lot of what Ray said, and Ruth, I know what you're talking about. this is death by a thousand cuts, though, because the voter suppression that is actually going on, that we've been witnessing for the last decade in the public, there's all of these games behind the scenes. So I've actually been working on a new article where I talk about the fact that there is a lot of election crime investigations that have taken place that all point towards Trump and to the Russians that are being suppressed as well. And what they're basically finding is, and when I talk about these independent investigations, I'm talking what Jack Smith testified in his closed door testimony, was that the conspiracy, and I believe Ray kind of said that the US federal government is allowing suppression, but what I'm going to take it a step further and saying they're actually behind the suppression, and they're not only behind the suppression in the public eyes, but they're working through the voter registration databases. And these voter lists that the Supreme Court just gave permission for are what Jack Smith was investigating, what Robert Mueller was investigating, and what Bob Woodward reported that US intelligence had NSA and CIA evidence of, which is that the Russians actually placed malware in our systems that could delete 1 in every 10 votes in Black neighborhoods. That was the direct statement that was made by Dan Coates, the National Security National Director of Intelligence. He said that to Trump in 2018, and the evidence is there that that is still happening. The 1 in 10 votes behind the scenes. So as bad as Ray was painting the picture of voter suppression out in the public, what is happening behind the scenes, not just in voting machines, but through voter registration databases, is also suppressing the vote and actually padding the votes. So there's actually additional illegitimate fraudulent registrations that DOJ has actually got cases on the books about this, that these fraudulent registrations are then there to dilute the voter rolls, the votes. So there's a lot going on here that can be backed up with evidence, and we just need to coordinate the ground game. And Sonny, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear Sonny?
Muted.
Not when he's
Sorry,
muted.
I just muted to take the call from my daughter. So we need to, this needs to be dealt with. John Steiner, we need to make the U.S. grassroots a hub for this. This is death. This is a fascist takeover, pure and simple. And the Supreme Court, you know, if the Democrats, the Democrat socialists and whoever else don't jump on this in a coordinating fashion, we're finished. There's no doubt about it. Doris Williams and then Paul Johnson. Go ahead, Doris, please, very quickly, and then Paul.
I put in the see the little whatever on the side. Thom Hartmann just recently did research on the original lawsuit that Citizens United has.
Right.
Okay, he has found out that in that lawsuit, the lawyer who argued against citizens being corporations being citizens actually won. He won that lawsuit, but the whoever put a heavy heading on that lawsuit said the opposite. Citizens, are people, but that's not how the lawsuit went. And I think, could we get lawyers on it? Thom Hartmann put it in a book just published called "Who Killed the American Dream," and it's all written. I think chapter 2 is the starting of the.
Right.
So he has put we need lawyers to get onto this, because
we need a lot of lawyers.
We need a lot of lawyers.
Well,
I agree.
if they couldn't outfund us in every way, That would take Musk out of the picture, for instance. And is there any way we could get this, because it is illegal, it is incorrect how the lawsuit did not turn out that way, and they just covered it up with a
They
different.
lied about it, right?
They
There was
lied.
also a lie told. There was a discussion held at the court, and the um, secretary for the Supreme Court, this is back in the 1870s or 80s,
Right.
actually lied about what the justices discussed way back when they were talking about corporate personhood. And the transcriber, who is a former railroad president, falsely represented that the justices discussed corporate personhood in a positive way, when in fact it was exactly the opposite. And thank you for that, Dolores. Paul Johnson, did you want to jump in, and we'll go back to Ray and John?
I'd be delighted to jump in. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Sure. Look, I really appreciate these meetings, so keep it up. Look, I think one of the fundamental things we need to push for is get the money out of politics. People that are good for, there's two skill sets. One is getting elected and getting people to give you money, and the other is actually being a good public servant. Two different skill sets, and the money has too much influence. And we keep trying to shift the elections to public financing, and it just shows up as a dead horse every time we try to pull it off. So I'm continuing to work with people like money out, voters in, people, that kind of thing. We keep working.
Yeah. Well,
But
thank you, Paul.
when it comes to voting, I think everybody benefits by having voter rolls that are accurate. Unfortunately, people move, and their voter registration doesn't get updated for one reason or another. And I know firsthand people that moved out of California 10 years ago are still getting ballots, and they're actually sending them in. They don't even live here. Okay, that's not right. They should go to jail. But that's another
Okay.
story.
Well, Trump votes by mail. Trump votes by
Florida.
mail. So, why can't we? I wonder if the Postal Service is going to examine Trump's ballot and give it a Q code or whatever when that comes in. So, but Paul, thank you for that. That's essential stuff. Milo Reeson, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, we don't have the honor of having Holly Mosher with us all that often.
Oh.
And I'd really love to have her join in on the conversation, because I know she has a lot that we can learn from.
Well, Holly,
Yeah.
you get the award
Yeah.
for the best. Holly, you get the award for the best real backdrop on your video.
Yes, I had to sit outside today, but
Okay,
it's
so go
just-
ahead, please. You're talking to Ray and
Yeah, well,
John and
what a
70,
great-
more than 70 people.
Yeah, what a great segue to Paul's Money in Politics, because as you know, I'm on the director of communications and outreach for Money Out, Voters In, and I helped produce the film Pay to Play about money in politics. But going way back 20 years.
Put the link to that in the chat.
Yeah.
Put the link in the chat.
I will do that. But going back 20 years, I've been following election integrity since producing Free for All, which is a film we finished in 2008. And it goes into the myriad of ways that they slice and dice the Electoral College. I've loved all the ways we talk about slicing and dicing the Electoral College. Voter disenfranchisement comes in many forms: voter purging and caging, limiting polling places, often making it particularly difficult for people of color, limiting drop boxes or the hours of operation, early voting, voter ID laws that hinder up to 10% of Americans, gerrymandering districts, diluting the vote, misinformation, disinformation, and election integrity, cyber insecurity threats, and it all leads back to that we need
Holly,
a constitutional amendment.
You need to produce a definitive list, as does Ray, that we can coagulate there or collate, and so that we have a master list of all the ways that elections are stolen. If you can put that down and email it to me at solartopia@gmail, both you and Ray, as soon as possible, I'll put it out in a form of an article, and we'll have it up for next week.
Yeah, and I'm just sharing because I have this,
2 years ago, I helped create a contest called Why Do You Vote? And in that, we had calls every week. And we had a call with Marilyn Marks from the Coalition for Good Governance, Lulu Friesdadt from Smart Elections. I also was a founder of Smart Elections,
Okay.
and Barbara Simons from Verified Voting. So I've added that link to that call because it showed how they came in on January 7th and stole of right after the insurrection day and stole the election equipment, everything, software, everything in Coffee County. Maryland's lawsuit uncovered that. It's a great call. And I also want to highlight there's an amazing resource that there was an election integrity symposium at DEF CON, and Free Speech for People hosted it. And there's 2 days worth of calls all about election integrity. So you guys can all get educated on what needs to be looked for. I mean, we need hand-marked paper ballots, we need risk limiting audits, and we need people across the country working on this.
Okay.
So there's many ways to get. I also want to just give a couple books that I think are just worth reading. Rat Fucked by David Daly, The Agenda by Ian Millhiser, and then the new one From Presence to Power by Rashad Robinson. Just amazing books. And I'm
I
going
want to
to,
say,
yeah.
that's great stuff. Put them in the chat. We will
Yep.
feature them on the usgrassroots.org website, which you can help us update. And we're going to put Ray and Andrea and so forth on that website and come back next week. I do want to ask a general question. Maybe we can start with you, Ray, on this one. What do we think about Hakeem Jeffries having a private meeting with Kushner?
There's been a lot of clutch pearls about that. It really doesn't bother me as much as it does a lot of other people. And I get those who are concerned about it. I'm not as concerned about Kushner doing that. I think that was a back channel that they want to create because they are coming to the realization that they're going to lose the midterms, and they need to have some kind of back channel communication started with the next Speaker of the House. So I look at it as Kushner being smart on his part, even though I don't like his politics and whatever, but he's trying to figure out how to do that. Having said that, I think there are a lot of other things that Jeffries needs to stand up to in order to be prepared to lead his caucus. But meeting with Kushner was not a big deal to me.
Well, do you think Hakeem Jeffries asked Kushner to fund your organization?
No.
Okay.
And I know he won't, and we know he won't. But Kushner, to me, again, he's being a businessman, just trying to have his back channel. I mean, if he can meet with Netanyahu and a bunch of Syrian terrorists and so forth, he certainly feels like he can meet with Hakeem Jeffries.
Right. Well, then the question comes up, if the Democrats in fact take the House, are we sure that Hakeem Jeffries will be the new speaker? Maybe they would throw him out.
No, I don't think that's a given. I think that there are a lot of people who he's going to have to do a lot of work to accomplish that. And I don't necessarily know that he's done all of the work. A lot is going to depend on how big this wave is, the tsunami that people are calling for, and how many really left-leaning progressives are rolling in on this wave. So, I mean, there's a long way to go. But hey, that's too far in the future for me. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure we get the majority, because as it stands right now, we're taking way too many things for granted.
Exactly.
Well,
here's the other question I want to ask you. In Georgia, how big an impact is gerrymandering going to have on how many congressionals come out of Georgia?
Well, remember we beat back the gerrymandering. So they didn't pass gerrymandering here. So we'll be able to maintain the the seats that we already have. What we're trying to do is pick up a seat. We're trying to pick up one of the seats where there's a Republican district that has almost 40% people of color. So we're going after that district hard to try to pick up a seat
Okay.
and ride the coattails of Ossoff. So that's where really our focus is in Georgia. Fortunately, we they backed off in Georgia the way they did and backed off in South Carolina. But Louisiana, Alabama, they will potentially lose seats, as Florida is going to lose seats as well.
What do you think the impact of this Supreme Court decision now will be on what the final vote count in Florida? I mean, in Georgia.
My initial reaction is I don't think it's going to have it as much of an impact because we have already focused our people on early voting and getting away from mail-in voting altogether. We started pulling our people off of mail-in voting back during COVID. And that's the reason that the state legislature has been so adamant and the state election board have been so adamant about cutting out drop boxes because Black people use drop boxes in amazing fashion, and they've gotten rid of them. And so it is inconvenient to do mail-in ballots when you don't know whether or not your ballot is going to reach the registrar in time, the clerk's office in time. So we're focused on early voting. And we have 2 weekends of early voting, 2 Saturdays of early voting over two plus weeks. So that's where we're going to put our emphasis. The problem is, our strategy is, yeah, it's despicable. Yeah, it's frustrating, but we got to get over being frustrated, and we got to organize to what we can control, and what we can control is getting people to the polls early.
All right. And even if you can't give them any water, didn't anybody ever challenge that in the courts?
Yeah, it's challenged, but it's still the law. And the way we've gotten around that is you have to be 200 or 250 feet, I forget which, away from the polls. So we set up our food trucks, water, and all of that stuff 250 feet away from the polls. And so people coming to get in line or leaving line know that they can come by our site and get a taco and a bottle of water
Wow.
after we leave. So we do that in some of the high traffic areas where the lines are the longest.
Well, I hope you do a little one sheeter on the technique of that. I assume also that where you put the water supply, you also put a porta potty, but we won't discuss that. Okay, Allison, real quick, and then Mike and Steve. This is fantastic. This is an incredibly important discussion, and we're going to continue it next week. But Allison, go in, please, Mike and Steve, and then I'll ask John Steiner to chime in. Anybody else, we're going to move on. So, Holly Mosher, it's great to have you with us. I'm serious. We need to produce a master list of all the ways. So please write it up, send it to me. We'll put it up on the website. Allison, go ahead, please. Oh, now you're muted.
Sorry, I did have to respectfully disagree with Ray. I
Okay.
do think it is very important that Hakeem Jeffries met with Jared Kushner, because the reality is there's a matter of diplomacy here. It's like going and meeting with North Korea in a way, and Kim Jong-un, because the reality is that Jared Kushner is not a representative of our government, and he's in no way representing the interests of the American people. And in fact, he's profiting off of the American people. And so while everybody is so furious with the Democrats and saying that they're not coming forward, this was a
Okay.
diplomatic move that really, really
Right. Right.
really positioned the party in a way that they're kind of in cahoots with, criminals, because I
Okay.
think that there are criminal activities that Jared's been involved in.
Well, I would tend to agree with you. The question is this going to affect the image of the Democrats, or is it going to be putting, if the Democrats win the House, will it make it more likely that Hakeem Jeffries will be removed before he becomes Speaker?
I think it
That
hurts
is that.
both.
I think that'll be an interesting question. I do want to, we got to take our victories where they are. I do want to thank Jared Kushner for looking at that island off Albania and promoting probably the greatest demonstrations in world history by percentage of a country's population. Because after Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, or whatever her name is, visited that island off of Albania and said they wanted to turn it into a resort, more than half of the actual population of Albania came out in protest. I don't know if you can point to another case where more than 50% of an entire country came out to demonstrate, but that's what happened. So thank you,
Okay,
Jared.
and 50% protested in their country, but we've got the Democrats actually meeting with Jared
Okay,
Kushner.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. As long as that, you never know what they discussed either. So, but I think it does. I think that meeting really hurts Hakeem Jeffries going forward, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Thank you for that, Allison. Mike Hurst, Steve Caruso, Mila Reese, and John Steiner, and then we're gonna move on. But this has been Ray. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're gonna
Okay.
come back next week. Stick with us if you can. If you can't, it's understood. But you always add so much, and we do want to put you on that website and have you a partner in it. So let's see what goes on. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike Hurst, please.
Thanks so much, Sonny, and thank you, Ray. You always do an amazing job reporting, and I love the idea of the food trucks and water stations and all that just past that perimeter.
Well,
So
I got to mention
way to
very
go.
quickly, I don't want to interrupt Mike, but as an 80-year-old guy, I always look at these voting lines and I wonder, where are the porta potties? And
Yeah, that's a good point.
if you got to move out, do they let you back in your place in line? Anyway, that's an 80-year-old guy talking. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Hey,
Yeah,
in Georgia, you can go to the front of the line over 75. So you'd be good in Georgia.
Oh, I should move
Oh,
there. Absolutely. Okay.
very civilized, very
Yeah,
smart.
really.
Yeah, and think about all the Coca-Cola they have there. So I'm sure they've made some accommodations. But yeah, anyway, no, my concern about this Hakeem Jeffries, Jared Kushner tete-a-tete is that it reminds me a little bit, and again, we're nonpartisan. We criticize all parties equally, especially the ones that are screwing things up. And it reminds me a lot of the okey doke that Andrew Cuomo used to run, where he had a bunch of people who were called the Independent Democratic Caucus. And if you rearrange the letters, you kind of get an idea of what were really about. And their job was to caucus with the Republicans, get elected in Democratic districts, and then Andrew Cuomo would say, what can I do? The Senate won't let me pass my budget. So okay, I'm out of luck. We gotta, cut all these programs. And he would keep doing that. And then if anybody said, well, wait a minute, we've got a majority. How's this happening? He would go to these billionaires and say, hey, you want me to pass a bunch of tough gun laws? Give me some money. Then he'd use the money to knock out anybody who criticized him. And he used that to keep in power. Now, and this is my point. Hakeem Jeffries does not like Medicare for all. He does not like a lot of progressive policies that would save lives and save money. And for the life of me, the only reason I can think of is that he cares more about Wall Street than he cares about his own constituents and everybody else across the country. Who else cares more about Wall Street than human beings? Jared Kushner, who has a lot of money to help him knock off Democratic nominees who happen to support Medicare for all and might not support him. And there's a handful of people who have already, I think foolishly, but courageously have said, I'm not going to support Hakeem Jeffries. So I think he would rather stay minority leader and knock off these people than have people in his caucus who aren't supporting him. And he also is arrogant enough to think that he can win without them. And we're seeing the same thing with a bunch of corporate Democrats turning on Democratic nominees in the Senate, where they say, we don't need Michigan. We don't need here. We don't need that. We don't need Maine. We don't need this. We need all of these states if the Democrats are going to take back. So what this exposes is the consultants and the so-called leadership of the Democratic Party would rather lose to Republicans than let progressives win and actually do a damn thing for the American people.
Well,
And
I'm
that's the mess we're in. That's the origin of the problem
right.
we're in.
Well,
And I'll
thank you,
just
Mike.
close with this. Ralph Nader has been right about this all along. I
Yes,
don't
he has.
agree. I don't agree with what he did in 2000. I understand why he did it, but we would have been better off with Al Gore than W. Bush. A lot of things would have been avoided. But he was right that these two parties are colluding against progressives. Not all of them, but too many of the leaders, too many of the donors, too many of the consultants. They're in cahoots against us, and we have to be aware of that. And the same people who say vote blue no matter who will not vote blue no matter who when it's a progressive who's running on a blue ticket.
Well, I gotta say, I'm astounded that Hakeem Jeffries let it be known that he was meeting with Kushner. There must be a reason for that we don't get. I mean, he could have talked. He could have
he's
talked
not.
to Kushner on the phone, and I think that this will hurt Hakeem Jeffries and put in question if the Democrats do win the House, whether he will be actually the speaker.
Well, it's
So
the
we'll see
same
what.
reason why Kamala Harris spent a lot of time campaigning with the Cheney family as
Well, that
opposed
was
to
different, though. The
progressives.
Cheney family was out of power, and they weren't doing the kinds of things that Kushner's been doing.
Well,
But
here's my point. It ain't smart.
right.
Either
Well,
way.
but I
Either
think
way.
it'll hurt. I think it'll hurt him more than the Democrats. But we'll see. Steve Caruso, Mona
Thank
Lisa,
you.
and then we're going to move on. Thank you, Mike. And we're going to come back to you in a couple minutes. Talk about the housing bill. Steve Caruso, go ahead. Then Myra, and then we're going
Yeah,
to move to John and go ahead.
porta potty should be mandatory. Otherwise, the state is
Right.
negligent. I mean,
I
it's
agree.
it's just ridiculous the way they come out like this. Oh, you're giving people food. That's encouraging them to vote. We can't have that. That's
Right.
absolutely ridiculous. They shouldn't have lines in the first place. Okay. So it's a
100%.
world vision. The Albanian thing is not just local to Albania, it's local to the world, which we are all part of, and it's a world revolution.
Right.
So
So
get
there
up,
you go.
stand up, and fight back. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. Myla Reeson, go ahead.
Well, as the former statewide treasurer of the Ralph Nader Winona LaDuke campaign for the presidency and vice presidency way back when, I have to respectfully but forcefully disagree with Mike Hirsch about Ralph Nader having anything to do with Bush becoming president. At any rate, I just wanted to say that we have someone with us named David Grace, who
Oh, yeah.
said a while ago that he is unable to raise
Okay.
his virtual hand, and I'd like him to unmute so that he can weigh in
Go
here.
ahead. And then John Steiner, if you're still with us, and then we're going to move on.
David's a co-host, so if he wants to turn his video
Oh,
on,
yeah.
do that.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Mila. Yeah, I just did figure out how to raise my hand.
Okay.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I guess
Go ahead.
I'm in the world now. Yeah, well, a couple of things. The disaster economics book that Naomi Klein wrote, Shock Doctrine. When you start seeing how there are so many disasters across America, and the post office doesn't want to deliver ballots in the midst of amazing disasters. Like, for example, up in Washington State, the
Hey, David, you're kind of breaking up. So if you
wildfires
could
up
get
there,
David,
actually in a
David,
red part into it.
Let him speak.
yeah,
I'm here.
I want,
Yeah.
David, get right to the point because you're
Well,
breaking up.
don't know how to adjust that, but
Just go ahead and speak.
in a red part of a red part of Washington State just is burning right now, and so red voters in Washington State, Donald Trump doesn't want to deliver ballots uh, uh, in blue states, right? And he's calling Washington State a blue state, while his red voters in that blue state are being cheated because they're losing their addresses. Get registered right away and registered with all of these, amazing kinds of special photography and passports and all of the requirements about new voters. I mean, that's one technique that we can lean on. There are massive rainstorms ripping through the South right now. Red sections of the country are being ripped apart by natural disasters, and Donald Trump doesn't want to acknowledge that global warming is real. And by doing that, he's setting it up so that the people in the red states are the ones that are hurt the most. So denying disaster relief to the blue states, New York, New Jersey,
Don't
was it
list them
Rhode
all.
Island?
Don't list them
Yeah,
all. Just
but
go.
you get the
Okay.
point. Massive
right.
numbers of people are being denied their vote.
Well, that's always been a major mainstay of the Republicans, is to not to and the right wing, the corporatists, way back when it was the Democrats, to deny people the right to vote. This post office decision is staggering. It's really staggering. So thank you, David Grace. We appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to jump in real quick? We still have 70 people with us. Then we're going to go to Kevin Camps and then to Mike Hirsch. David, is there anything further? Okay, John Steiner, if you're still with us, can you jump in and we'll wrap up on usgrassroots.org. I think John may have left. John, you there?
Harvey, I'm still with you, and we'll see what we can do by next week.
Okay, that's good. And so everybody can take a look right now at usgrassroots.org and send us your suggestions. John's gone through there, I don't know, 50 or so groups. Most of them are no longer active. We do want to feature the key ones that can where people can go to ascertain where to donate their 20% or more to grassroots groups. And take a look, please, usgrassroots.org, and send us your suggestions. And thank you, John. And we will also feature my article on the Granny foul shooting, which we'll get to at the very end here. But we want to continue now with Kevin Camps, and then with Mike Hirsch. Kevin, you and that discussion on protecting 2026 is incredibly important. We will continue next week with more of it, and we will introduce the actual website after John and I and a few others work on it. With Kevin Camps, and then with Mike Hirsch. Yes, please. Okay, Kevin Camps, you're going to talk a bit about something you just found out in the about the scam that's being perpetrated in Michigan, and on the nuclear plant. By the way, the new progressive candidate for U.S. Senate, El Said, I haven't heard anything what he said or not said about the Palisades reactor and converting Michigan to solar energy. Kevin, do you have anything to report on what he's been saying or not saying about Palisades?
Right, I don't know either. I tried some weeks ago. You all may remember it was one of these Zooms here, and Mike Hirsch was promoting a Progressive Democrats of America meeting with El Said. This was before primary night, and I did get the question in. It even got read, but he had already left. But interestingly, a state Senate candidate who was Arab from Dearborn answered the question and quite well, even though he was not familiar with Palisades. So that was a positive development, actually. I don't know. I assume he won his state Senate primary. Hopefully, he'll win the general, and we'll have another anti-nuke state legislator in that person.
Well, I mean,
Partly because of
how does
you
a
guys prompting
candidate,
me.
how does a candidate running for the state Senate in Michigan not know about Palisades?
Lives on the other side of the state, Metro Detroit. You know, if anything, you should be as worried or more about Fermi from day to day. So, you know, we got a lot of education to do.
Okay, so Kevin, we're going to go to Mike Hirsch in a couple minutes to talk about the incredibly destructive aspects of the Trump housing bill. But you discovered something that I've never heard in the Holtec attempt to take over the Palisades reactor. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, we've actually known about it for some time, and we've gotten the word out to the media, but nobody's picked up on it. And so it was this smoking gun document that Holtec International wrote a bailout application and strategy document to the U.S. Department of Energy. It was dated July 5th, 2022. Holtec was supposedly decommissioning Palisades at the time, but instead, a week after getting possession of the plant under false pretenses, they applied for all these many billions of dollars to restart the reactor and build new ones there instead. And one of the points that Harvey and I just happened to discuss recently that was in the smoking gun FOIA response from the state of Michigan, that's how I got a hold of this stuff, was Holtec explicitly requested to the previous owner of Palisades, Consumers Power, to please reserve the grid, please tie up the grid so that renewables, for example, can't access it for however long it takes us to get Palisades returned to operations. So it's you know, it's in writing, black and white, conspiracy to block the electric grid against renewables and preserve it for future nuclear access. So I don't know how these things are legal. They're probably not, but since we're the only ones who seem to care and pay any attention, you'd
So
think it would be illegal.
So the masks are off and they're saying the quiet part out loud.
Well, it was a secret
So-
document and we got it. I can't imagine what happened to the state bureaucrat that sent us this document. I imagine they got fired or worse.
So I have something to add about Palisades. Is that okay, Harvey?
Well, I just want to make clear that this document, Kevin, says that Holtec wants the grid operator to ban renewable energy from going onto the grid. Is that right?
To preserve the grid access capacity for nuclear. Yes, same difference.
So you can't if you want to go solar in Michigan or put up windmills or battery backup, Holtec does not want you allowed to be on the grid at all.
In that geographic location.
That's staggering. That's like banning the post office from sending out ballots.
Is
Really amazing.
PJM in on that? Go ahead, Mala.
Don't know.
So I wanted to possibly you were thinking about Donovan McKinney. I don't know, Kevin, but Donovan McKinney really did very well in the last congressional runoff in Michigan. He is running to represent in Congress the greater Detroit area. And he is the former chair of the Environment Department of the Michigan State Legislature. And he went up against Granholm with respect to Palisades. He is very well informed about Palisades, and he is close to El Said. So that gives me hope. I believe that, you know, they work closely together, that he will be in El Said's ear with respect to Palisades. McKinney is totally clear about it, and that gives me a lot of hope. So that's Donovan McKinney. And he is the Democrat running for Congress to represent the greater Detroit area and will probably be elected.
Wow. Kevin, you got to get Michael Keegan and the rest of you Michigan guys in their face. I mean, if he's running, Michael is there in Monroe. He should just drive up and meet this guy. So, but you got to get rid of that hat and wear a University of Michigan hat so that you're more like a local. All right. All right. Well, it's acceptable for the time being. Okay, you guys, this is really good. Kevin, thank you for that scoop. In all my years, I have never heard of even a nuclear power company trying to ban renewables from the grid. I mean, that's basically, really over the line. And it's an admission that they can't handle the truth here, right?
Well, like in Ohio, it's been active sabotage by the powers that be against wind power and all
Right.
renewables.
No doubt about that. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for that, Kevin. And thank you for co-hosting the California Solartopia show. We appreciate it. And we appreciate your having called around in California. We up to 6 or 7 different stations listening. So your continued efforts to bring new listeners to California Solartopia are welcome. Amila?
It was interesting when we were fighting to keep Southern California Edison from restarting the the San Onofre nuclear power plant. There was a secret white paper that was released, and it was an analysis that had been done by nuclear power industry insiders saying that they feared solar at that time because they could not compete with solar, and that was a very serious analysis that was leaked to the no nukes community.
Well, they clearly can't. And, at Diablo Canyon now, thanks to our discussion last week with John Geisman, we know that the state legislature in California will have to have a vote to approve buying new fuel for the Diablo Canyon reactors to go past 2029. This is a big deal. We don't know if they're going to try and sneak the vote through before this election, which they conceivably could do. I'm sure that PG&E will give a fat check to every Senate or House member in the California legislature if they support that. But that's something we got to look at immediately.
Right.
Because,
right. Giesman was saying that PG&E is already pressuring the legislature because they want to order the next tranche of fuel so that they can keep Diablo running beyond 2030.
but
So
according to the law, they will have to also get
that's right.
permission to
That's
continue violating the Clean Water Act.
Hmm.
And because, they're running a once-through cooling system at Diablo, which
Mhm.
everybody has acknowledged violates the law against putting too much hot water into the ocean.
Right, but they have gotten waiver after waiver
Right.
after waiver from all of the agencies that would regulate that, from the state legislature to the California Coastal Commission to everybody. Unfortunately, if we can go by past history on this, what's going to stand in the way other than a public uprising and pressure from the public to prevent
Right.
that waiver being issued once again?
So to let that happen, we got to make sure that the vote does not occur in the next, 24 hours. Thank you, Kevin, again. Thank you, Myla. We want to go now to Mike Hirsch. Mike is more astute and informed on this housing bill than anybody else that I've heard, and has got some details that nobody understands or has been discussing at all about the housing bill that are mind-boggling and essentially represent, in many ways, the potential death of condominium ownership in the United States. Mike, do you want to go to talking about this part of the housing bill?
Absolutely. And my understanding is, and I'm still researching this, but this is something that I'm surprised is not being reported a lot more. Maybe after this, we'll find out if any working journalists are listening in. But to clarify, it's not necessarily because of the recent Housing Act that just went into effect without Trump's signature. Trump more or less supported the bill, but he refused to sign it because he wanted to force the Senate to pass the onerous Enslave America Act that he calls Save America Act that would disenfranchise a lot of people. So that's a little bit of drama. But apparently, under the Trump administration guidelines, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who set mortgage standards for the country, put in a whole bunch of new restrictions a few months ago, and they just went into effect in early August. And the impact of that is suddenly a huge number of condominium developments either are unwarrantable or on the verge of becoming unwarrantable. And what that means is if you're trying to refinance your condo or take out a home equity loan, or if you're trying to sell it, you cannot do that with conventional financing. And what that means is if you're trying to sell your condo, the number of people who can potentially buy it is very small because it's limited to people who can pay cash or people who can buy it as an investment property and show a bank that they're going to make money off of the property. So it's very difficult to sell a condominium that's in this unwarrantable situation. And mortgage industry sources estimate that 15 to 20% of current condominium developments fail to meet the new warrantability standards. Now, under the old standards, Freddie, Fannie would trust the lenders to do due diligence. And we've seen how that might not be a wise move. But this remedy seems to be worse than the problem it's trying to address. So if you got 15 to 20% of condominium projects and developments that are currently unwarrantable, it's likely that some of them will be foreclosed upon. I'm already seeing that here locally in the DC area. And when that happens, it causes a chain reaction throughout the entire housing market that threatens the tax base of localities and counties, and that will force them to cut back on what they can spend on schools and road repairs and all the other necessities that they take care of. And it could tip us into another housing crisis nationwide.
That's just staggering. Does anybody here on this call own a condo? I mean, if you own a condo, Mike, tell us what this does to you if you actually own a condo.
Well, here's the thing. If you're up to date on your fees and you're paying your mortgage and your taxes and everything, you should be okay. But you're not under this situation. If your neighbor gets into a situation where they can't pay their condo fee, it could set off a ripple effect where your entire project, your entire development could be deemed unwarrantable. And there's a number of different ways that can happen. But one of the main ways is that 15% or above 15% of your neighbors are delinquent for 6 months or more in their HOA fees, condo fees, whatever you want to call it, then you get knocked in the teeth. That means you cannot easily sell your property and you cannot get a conventional refi or a conventional home equity loan, a second mortgage, or whatever you want to call that. This is off the table to you. And it's not anything that you did wrong. And if you look at that through the lens of the treasury markets are roiled by the fact we just passed $40 trillion in national debt. And while it's not a huge difference, 40 trillion or 39 trillion, it's symbolic. And it makes other countries wonder if they're going to continue investing in that. And if they don't continue investing in our treasuries, then that means the people who are willing to buy our treasuries drops down, the interest rates goes up, and that pushes interest rates throughout the entire economy. And that makes it even more difficult for people to buy a condo or sell their condo, because people will have to finance it at a much more expensive rate. So we're looking at a perfect storm of a number of different trends all coming together, that could be absolutely devastating for condos and then have a very deleterious impact throughout the entire housing market in the entire country.
Well, I also want to mention that the news is now circulating that the Saudis are seriously considering taking oil transactions off the petrodollar.
Yep.
And if that happens, the American dollar is going to go straight to the toilet.
Yep.
And the whole American economy is just going to be devastated
Yep.
because, we've been living off the petrodollar for a very long time now. And this, to add in another housing crisis in the middle of a currency collapse, we're all going to be selling apples on street corners here.
Yeah.
That's where we're really at. It's a staggering moment that could only have been put together by the stable genius of Donald Trump. Alison Green, stick with us, Mike, Alison, and then Carla. Oh, and David Grace. David Grace, you put in a very cogent comment. Also, I want to notice that Vina Colley is with us. And Vina, you couldn't get on last week. I'm going to try and get to you in a few minutes. But go ahead, Allison, and then Carla.
Yes. So to answer your question, I own a co-op, not a condo. But I have also worked in high-end residential construction for 15 years in New York City. And what I can tell you is that, one of the things that Mike talked about, it is staggering because the reality is that the people who are not millionaires and own condos right now, or even $1 million, to be honest with you, is not necessarily, to be a millionaire is not what you need in New York City. I mean, that basically buys you a one-bedroom condo these days. But those people who've bought one-bedroom condos are going to be really stuck. And the rules are very specific. Co-ops versus condos have always been a tricky scenario because a condo, you really do have a problem when your neighbors are foreclosed on. And that's what he's talking about. And so the other thing that we have to worry about in terms of the housing economics is that all of those condo owners who can't sustain their properties, one of the big things is that landlords are coming in, corporate landlords coming in, buying up all the inventory and using it as rentals. And part of the problem is that the rental market is out of control because of these corporate landlords. So you're really creating a house of cards that could easily collapse in New York City based on, I mean, Mike, am I correct? This also hurts the people who currently have condos and
That's
are not
right.
multimillionaires, correct?
That's right. And one of the indices of failure to become an unwarrantable development is if there are too many absentee owners who have bought and rented out units. So what that could do is, somebody's desperate to get out, or somebody's relative passed away and they end up inheriting it, and they can't find a occupant buyer. So they put it on the market and they can only sell to somebody who has cash, these hedge funds. So, and what's interesting about, and Sonny, you mentioned the recent housing bill that just became an act, just went into law. There are limitations on how many rental properties these hedge funds and other entities can own. It's capped at 500. And poked around in the law a little bit, and they don't have to sell those that they have. So what they can do, and it doesn't go into effect until January. So what they can be doing right now is frantically buying as many properties as they can to beat the deadline, and they will not be forced to sell the properties to get under 500.
What was that
So
truck?
it's a perverse
What?
incentive built
Maybe
into the
maybe that's what
legislation.
maybe that's what Hakeem Jeffries and
Really? Both
Kushner,
of them. Okay.
maybe that's what
All
Hakeem
right.
Jeffries and Kushner were talking about. How Kushner can get more condos. Carla
Well,
Sand
yeah.
and then David Grace.
And I have some
Carla?
bad news for people in Florida coming up, but go ahead, please.
Carla Sand. Did you want to speak? Carla, you got a hand up. Maybe you're gone. David Grace, you can speak it quickly if you want. David?
This is Carlin. I'm unmuted now. I couldn't do it
All right, go
before.
We
ahead. What do
got
you
you,
got?
Carla.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, that's very serious thing you're talking about, because I had spent the last two legislative sessions with the Minnesota legislature passing legislation on HOAs, and particularly to prevent evictions. So I'm on a hope that we hear more about this. And of course, I will be calling my legislators the minute I get off the phone. But I have been through private ownership, through co-op, then onto a condo, and it's a mess. And it's more than just that piece of legislation. But I'd like to hear more about it.
Okay, Myla Reeson, we still have 62 people with us. We still have the best attention span of any Zoom in the country. Go ahead, Myla.
So I wanted to just pivot and talk about, some of you may remember, there was this stunt that went on back in April where this Republican operative woman posed as a DoorDash delivery person. And she delivered some food to Trump in the White House, and it was a big stunt. And that was in support of Trump's no tax on tips. Well, it turns out that the DoorDash company is very reactionary, very big supporters of the Trump administration, and that they now have contributed a great deal of money. They're supporting this legislation that was introduced by Comer, and it is threatening the Washington, D.C.'s ability to raise money through taxes. And it would limit, take more power away from home rule and from Washington, D.C. So there is a campaign right now. It's called Delete DoorDash. There's a hashtag Delete DoorDash. And the people in Washington, D.C. are asking people all over the country who happen to have DoorDash applications on their phones to delete that application and not to use DoorDash, because when they use DoorDash, they are directly contributing to reactionary Trump-aligned coffers. So I just wanted to add that
All right.
HR 9720 introduced by Representative Comer, James Comer, and it could possibly be passed this year. So.
Okay, thank you. Dorothy Reich. Dorothy, you want to jump in, and then Tatanka and Alex. But I do want to get to Vina Colley in a couple minutes.
Just
Dorothy?
woke up from a little nap I took, which I don't usually do, and I see the New York Times says Supreme Court allows plan to restrict mail-in voting for now.
Yeah, we
Right.
talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Talked about that
horrifying.
already?
Yeah, we talked
It's
about it
terrible.
already. Thanks.
But it is
Don't let the
terrible,
post
Dorothy.
office decide who gets to vote.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. It's very scary.
It is beyond scary. And so the guy who comes up to your place on horseback to deliver your mail, he's not going to be able to give you your ballot.
Yeah, the Pony Express.
Right. Okay, Alex Williams and then Tatanka. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you for that.
Hello?
Alex Williams, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then Tatanka. And then I want to go to Vina Colley.
Yeah, that what you were saying about condos. I'm in the Washington D.C. area. Oh, and thanks for that thing about DoorDash. I didn't know that, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
check that out. And also, but all I wanted was where can I get more information on that? Because I own a condo in Montgomery County, right outside of D.C. And
I
that's
got some, yeah, I got some not great news for people in the DC, greater DC area, but especially Florida, about the impact of this. Yeah.
Put it up on the chat, Mike, and let's go to Tatanka and then Vina, and then we'll come back to you for more on this. Tatanka?
Sure.
Yeah, this is my speculation, but don't underestimate the cluelessness of wealthy people when they're in a bubble and when they're in a real hurry to make a lot of money real fast. So it sounds like there's kind of a list of things that the US has done with other countries. Let's take Chile, for example. When the coup happened down there, the US sponsored coup under the Nixon administration, the goal was to wreck the economy and rebuild it by corporations, which they did. And which Friedman, who, was touted, I think he won the Nobel Prize in economics for touting the Chilean miracle, which was all laid out in Naomi Klein's book, The Shock Doctrine. So it's kind of like at the end of an empire, the empire, all the dirty deeds we've done to other people in the country. There's a list of them. My fantasy head has something like Bannon and Miller giving the list, to the people, the very wealthy people, and say, "Well, try this," you know.
Yep. And here we are.
There we are. Yeah, just
Here
just make it move faster. What's happening right now? You want to take over the condo market. We saw it in Santa Cruz. We saw it in a lot of places where there was direct interference of local elections to make sure certain people were in Santa Cruz, California, that were going to vote for affordable housing and homelessness, didn't get on the ballot, and the backup plan was something like this, and it involved a
Unbelievable.
lot of money.
Well, I think that also, once again, we'll have to discuss this in greater detail next week. But the underpinning of the American economy for many years has been the petrodollar. And if, in fact, the petrodollar goes away, we become a third world country overnight.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and the yuan, the Chinese yuan, will just completely dominate and it'll be over.
That's all right. We got crypto, man. We don't need to worry
Yeah,
about the
right.
petrodollar. I mean,
Right.
really, these
We
guys
have
are grabbing everything they can grab right now, and they're going to turn around and things are going to change for them too. But
crypto and data. We have crypto and data centers, and which I think, and small modular reactors are basically crypto nukes. We still have 60 people with us. Bina Colley, are you in Southern California? Southern Ohio, rather. Tatanka, did you want to say something further?
I just wanted to say all this, speculation and all the things that are happening to the condo market. It just underscores how important all the work about election integrity and all the work that Ray talked about, and all the work, the elections that we have to win, because what's at stake here is all of this. This administration will take all of us down in the world.
Absolutely. Um, Vina Colley, was someone else in front of you? Vina Colley, do you want to talk about the latest from Southern Ohio?
Yes, we have a lot going on here. They want to put all the things you mentioned here in Python, but I have just a little bit of good news. We were able to get on the list for RECA. We have 4 sites in the zip codes, and we have 270 days to get the rest of the 20 zip codes for Scioto County and Pike County. And anybody who's listening, if you could call your reps to support Python to get us in to get the rest of our zip codes, we appreciate it, because we don't have any Ohio reps supporting us. It's all from
Right,
the
and they
West.
want to take the old nuclear enrichment facility and surround it with small modular crypto reactors and build a data center. Is that it?
Yes. And the other thing is, just yesterday or so, they put 21 radioactive signs on the site, but never put anything in the off-site contamination. So we're fighting to get the sites off-site, the cricks, with the signs, but they put 21 radioactive signs on site for people and not off-site. They are criminals. We are lucky right now because Senator Brown, 2 years ago, we petitioned him and we got 10 letters of support from the government councils, the unions, the commissioners that they thought we should be in RECA. Well, it even went to the Senate. Lujan said Scioto County and Pike County should be in the bill, and we weren't. So now this year, we do have 4 zip codes in. And so
Okay,
now
this is good.
we're going to be, we've been sending them documents that you can't get. And now they're going to work, Moreland's office wants to work with me to get the other 20 zip codes in when the bill.
They said delivery has to be on a credit card.
Oh, come on. Well, I don't know who that is. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
Thank you
I'm
for
sorry
that.
about that.
That's all right. Thank you, Vina
So
Colley, and we
So if
certainly hope.
if we could get anyone, Harvey, to call our representatives and try to get them to work with press, it would be wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vina. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the work you're doing. Southern Ohio is the site of possibly the biggest scam for data centers and small reactors. They go hand in hand. I mean, they want to put in a gargantuan electric power production facility in Southern Ohio to power a gargantuan data center. And who really benefits from a data center? Steve Caruso, you're fighting one in Central Ohio. I mean, they want to take these giant buildings, suck up all the water, all the electric power, pollute the air, and be noisy as hell. And who actually gets the benefit from a data center? We have seen across the country one of the biggest grassroots movements, uprisings against data centers, pretty much across the board. We're even getting, I think, states to pass legislation banning data centers. Steve, what
Yeah.
is the situation of your fight in Central Ohio?
Tomorrow there's a meeting in a local town where they're going to protest. They've got, since the city's chartered, they could get it on the ballot for the fall so the populace can vote on it. It's another great, and if anybody hasn't had it on their radar, there's Gil Duran has a book out called The Nerd Reich, NERDREICH, and it talks about the background of the data centers, the fascism behind it, and this big push. So you can imagine these companies saying, oh, we don't, just block all the solar power and alternative energy you can, and we'll try to push in the nuclear power. And it's a collusion. It's a RICO Act case for the Supreme Court when it's constituted with the proper personalities. But this is crazy.
Well, what do you think the chances are that your neighborhood in Central Ohio will be able to stop the data center?
Well, there's also, it's not just that neighborhood, that's nearby. There's New Albany. They're getting ready to put in at least 6 turbines. They're going to be punching out 400 megawatts of energy with the equivalent of a 48-inch gas line feed. Imagine that, these turbines running 24/7, vibrating the ground and the local area. It's just going to wreak havoc. There's a local quiet town, Granville, that's saying, we're waiting for this. I'm trying to find the article here, but it's just this whole industrialization of data is ridiculous, because who are they going to be using? What are they going to be doing with all this data? I mean, if they're so dang intelligent, man, why are they even doing this? It's biologically unsustainable that the whole locale and the geographic area is just being riddled with nonsense and garbage with this factories and supporting what? People? No, that's not supporting people. It's not supporting the environment, and it's not supporting progress by any means. Who's it going to hire? Who are they going to pay? Nobody. It's all a rich man's scheme to push his agenda, and it's fascism. That's all it is on its face.
Okay, so
I'd like to say something to that base. What gets me, they're trying to buy 15 homes here right now to expand. And the land is contaminated. Why would you put anything out there on contaminated land?
this is contaminated by radiation from the Portsmouth nuclear facility. Is that right, Vina?
Yes, yes, plutonium, neptunium, americia, Tech 99 is everywhere because it's so water soluble. And then we had fluorides for 70 years. And all of this stuff has went down our creeks. And it's not only just affecting us, it's going all the way to the Mississippi. And if the aquifer, the largest aquifer in the Midwest, is leaking, it's going to go all the way to Indiana. So it's just not Piketon it's involving. We need help. We need people to call our representatives. We need RECA for the community because the community has the highest cancer in the nation, 107% above the national average. And they're ignoring that. And Trump wants to put all these big places in Piketon, and not only Piketon, but Havard Hill, which is probably less than 10 miles. They're right now digging that land to put one there. And so,
Unbelievable. It's unreal.
yes, it is. It is unreal.
Thank you, Vina. We appreciate it. David Grace, did you want to try and speak up again? I know you can't get your hand. David Grace? No. Aaron Allen, you've not spoken before. Aaron Allen? Let's get you unmuted. Go ahead. We're almost at the end here.
Sorry, it was giving me a tab to click
Go
on.
ahead. Just go ahead and speak. Yeah. What do you want? Yeah.
I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm going to be part of a group that's going to be taking on Doge. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, there's 6 different states that any citizen can summon a federal grand jury. This is focused on the theft of Social Security data, but it all ties into data centers, all of this. It's all the same. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, and if you guys want to find out more information, I'd be happy to talk.
So you are suing Doge, or you? What's the nature of your action? David? Oh, you disappeared. Oh, Aaron, rather. Let's see if I can get you on mute. Aaron, what is the nature? What is the nature of
there
your
we go.
action?
Yeah, thanks.
Is this Aaron Allen?
No, you unmuted. It took me a minute. It wouldn't let me unmute.
I'm David.
Oh, David Grace.
Yeah, Aaron, if you could finish up, and then David right after
Yeah,
Aaron.
then we're about out of time here. Aaron, what is the nature of your action?
It is a federal grand jury that's going to be going after Doge. I'm going to put my email in the chat for you guys.
Well, you know, Doge, because of Doge, they gutted the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Then the Supreme Court said that with the Slaughter decision, said that any regulator can be fired at will without cause by the president, Donald Trump. That means that Donald Trump is now the sole regulator of health and safety at all nuclear power plants in the United States.
Right.
And so I hope you're suing about that.
Well, this is going to be focused on the Social Security Administration data theft, but it's all connected.
Okay. Thank you for that, Aaron. Put the connections in the chat, and do come back next week and let us know what's going on. Okay.
And Sonny, I'd like to really quickly hit on Florida, California, and what the rest of the country is facing on this housing thing. Well, Florida's ground zero, where Florida has a lot of condos where they've delayed repairs for roofs and they've been damaged by hurricanes. That's the place where these new regulations are going to have the most devastating impact. And I don't know what's going to happen to that economy. So that's very frightening. California is the second leading most vulnerable state for these problems. And it's going to hit San Francisco, Los Angeles, Palm Springs, and the coastal beach communities for all the reasons that I was talking about. But Florida, there's, let's see, there's 5,175 condo projects on Fannie Mae's ineligible blacklist, and about 1,400 of them are in Florida. So that's pretty devastating. About 730 in California are on the mortgage blacklist. And the problem is this isn't a static situation. And the problem is if there's a ripple effect or, a chain reaction where collapses in the fiscal security of some of these condos has a ripple effect and spreads. And if you're in the neighborhood where there's a foreclosure, that could adversely affect your home value for up to 5 years, according to some studies. And Colorado, Las Vegas, Nevada, the DC metro area, especially Montgomery County and Prince George's County, Baltimore City and Baltimore County are very vulnerable, especially with the massive DOGE firings of federal workers and layoffs of federal workers. And right behind those states, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts are all very vulnerable. Cities like Chicago, Boston, Jersey City, and parts of New York City with older buildings, with a lot of high investor, renter shares of these associations are all very vulnerable and getting more so. So it's something we've got to keep watching.
Really unbelievable. Myra Reason?
Sorry, you skipped me.
Okay. Well, we're almost at the end here. This has been a devastating session. Starting with Ray McClendon's rundown of what's actually being done to steal the votes, and we want to have a catalog to present next week, and to also discuss the revival of the Grassroots, usgrassroots.org website. So if anyone will take the time we will be off in 2 weeks, by the way. That'll be Labor Day, but next Monday we will meet, and we need to really have a assessment of what we can do with this usgrassroots.org website. We want a catalog of the ways that the election will be bought or stolen, and we also want to deal with promoting the 20% solution to get people to sponsor grassroots organizing around the country. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? We're almost at the top of the hour here. Okay. Listen, everybody, this has been great.
I'll just...
What? Go ahead. I heard a voice.
Is that David again?
That might have been David.
Sounded like David Grace.
Are you back?
But can I just say what I was going to say to Mr. Allen is, sorry, Aaron Allen, is that, Oklahoma is also one of the 5 finalist states to be designated as a possible recipient of high-level nuclear waste. So not only do you, that's yet another thing that Oklahomans really need to pay attention to and be concerned about.
Right. So you're doing fine, Oklahoma, okay, LA. I sing that in junior high school. So what can I tell you? It's embedded in my brain here. All right, everybody, this has been a spectacular session. I do want to remind
If
all
I could just add,
Californians. What?
David Grace has something to say.
Go ahead quickly, David.
Oh, if I could just, in almost all of these discussions, it comes to self-preservation, and self-preservation is one of the foundations of law. that the self-preservation against economic tyranny, environmental tyranny, various kinds of tyrants have basically attacked, and they pretend that we don't have the right to have self-preservation. And so whether it's about the condos or whether the nuclear wastes or anything else, these are all
Right.
related to self-preservation. And activism is a major part of that.
I totally agree with that. And Eugene V. Debs had a great line. He said that, when I work for social justice, I'm working for myself because we need to have a better world to live in, and a world without that is worthless. And I do want to thank you for that, David. And I do want to add, especially to all you Californians on the call, that PG&E is pushing hard now to get a vote to extend the fuel storage supply for Diablo Canyon into the distant future. And those of us who live downwind of Diablo Canyon, which includes me and my children and grandchildren, and many of the rest of you, Milo, know, Tatanka, we need to shut Diablo Canyon. We need to prevent them from refueling, which we can do as soon as possible. We learned from this call that there will have to be a vote, and let's get together and make sure that it becomes an issue and that the refueling of Diablo Canyon is denied by the legislature. It's going to take some quick work, but we got to do that. Steve Caruso, did you want to
Yeah,
add something? And then we're going to go.
don't forget how long it took Hitler to ramp up in Germany. Okay. This is, either we step on it now or we're going to be in the same place. So
Well, this latest
everything.
move, absolutely, Steve. And this latest move by the Supreme Court to basically gut voting by mail could not be more serious. So, everybody, on that note, let's go organize, and we will see you again next week. Take a look at usgrassroots.org. Send me your suggestions, solartopia@me.com. And is that it, Steve? Did you have anything further?
No, that's it. Thanks.
All right, everybody. No nukes. We will see you next week. Organize, 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 as Aaron says. Thank you so much. It's been another fantastic session. Thanks especially to Ray McClendon, John Steiner, Allison, all you folks that put in so much. We'll see you next week. No nukes.